Hi guys, in this video I'm going to introduce you to the basics of sculpting with Blender, and the version I'm using here is one of the 2.8 series. So I've got a completely new file here with the default cube in the middle, and I'm going to click on the default cube so that it's selected, and then I'm going to go up to the top and choose sculpting. Now sculpting simulates the process of sculpting with something like clay, and you have a brush, which is this sort of blue circle, which I can move around with the mouse. Now when you click on the side of the cube, you actually won't see anything happen. So that's because although it can move corners of the cube, if I go over to a corner and push, it does actually slightly change that corner. But what it can't do is add in new polygons. So because of that, just clicking on the side of the cube doesn't do very much. But a simple way to fix that is to go over to the right hand side, and you'll see there's a little tick box here. It says Dyn Topo next to it. That stands for dynamic topology. And if you tick the box and just click OK, and then that will mean that it can create polygons automatically. So once you do that, you can actually start sort of building up clay on the box. So here I am, I'm just kind of building up a lump on the side of the box. Now I can sort of build it up reasonably high. Now let's say that I want to get rid of that lump. What I can do is hold down the Control key and then click on the lump, and it's going to wear away at that surface. So I'm sort of pushing it down now. There we go. Pushing and start actually tunneling into the side of the cube. Now I'm sort of clicking the left mouse button and holding it down, but sometimes I find that if it's moved all the as far as it can go, you can make it go even further by just letting go of the mouse button and then clicking it again. So I think that's about as far as I can get through the cube. You might say, why can't I go all the way through the cube? And basically there are sort of limits to how far you push it. You can increase the strength and hardness, and that will allow you to push it more. I don't know if I can actually get all the way through the cube. I don't think that I'm going to be able to get right through to the other side. I think that it will always have at least a little bit of material. Oh look, it's actually pushed through, pushed right the way through. But as I said, there's always like a little bit of material around where I'm pushing, so it's not possible to actually punch a hole in something. Okay, so that gives you an idea of the way that sculpting works, and there are lots of controls over here, and a big part of getting good with sculpting, not that I'm especially good, but a big part of learning how to sculpt more effectively is learning how to use these controls over here. There are also a bunch of different brushes over here which do slightly different things to your model. I certainly don't use all of them myself, but there are a few that I use, and I'll try to sort of show you some of those. But I'm going to turn the strength back down now, so I'm going to put it back to 0.5 because that's kind of the standard setting. And I'm going to decrease the hardness as well. And then let's start a new project. And what I'm going to do is give you a demonstration of how we can use sculpting to create a human head. So if I want to create a face or a head, the first thing I do is try to get just a general head shape. So I'm going to press the F key, and then I can move the mouse out until I've got quite a large brush. Now a good technique in sculpting is to start off by just doing really big details, and then gradually decrease the size of the brush in order to add fine detail. So with this really large brush, I'm just going to kind of pull out the cube to make it rounded. Now, if I'm working on a human head, then I probably want symmetry turned on. So I can choose symmetry around an axis. Let's turn on x-axis symmetry. And then that will allow me to form a change on one side and have exactly the same change mirrored on the other side. So I'm sort of just pulling this cube out. I'm going to create something which looks like a head shape. Now, as you're sculpting, it's really important to keep moving around the model so that you can see exactly what is happening in all 3 dimensions, right? Don't just get focused on looking at your model from one particular view. Okay, I think that will do for a rough approximation of a head shape. Okay, now I'm going to press F again and decrease the size of the brush a little bit. And now come back and try to add a little bit more detail. Make the head a little bit less flat, because obviously in reality heads are more, at least more rounded than that. And you can start to try to add in like a chin, maybe. Here we go, there's more of a chin. And like an alien than a human being. But okay, now I'm going to decrease the size of the brush again. Now this is where I might want to start adding in sort of a bit of space for eyes and a nose. And again, actually, before I decrease the brush size, I think I need to sort out this head because the face size is a bit too small for this head. So I'm going to increase the size of the brush again and just try to go around the head. Now, when you're doing smooth surfaces, there's an option over here which says auto smooth. If you turn that up, then the surfaces that you create will be very smooth, but be warned that it will basically, of course, remove detail from what you're doing. So it can sometimes have destructive effects, right? If you work hard on creating a shape like a mouth or something like that, and then you turn on auto smooth, you might find that it smooths out the mouth and you've basically lost all of that detail. So be careful when you use it. But it is very useful for creating smooth shapes like the top of a head, like I'm doing here. Oh, but I auto smoothed a bit into the brow, the eye area, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to decrease the size of the brush again. Okay, here we go. That's looking all right. So now I'll make this brush a little bit smoother, and I'm going to take off, sorry, a bit smaller, and I'm going to take off auto smooth again so that I can get some more detail. So let's just try and create more detail on this nose. Now, one thing about dynamic topology is that you can see here it says detailing, and you can switch between relative detail or constant detail. Now, constant detail is where you basically say the minimum size that, or the minimum size polygon that you want to work with. And that can be useful. Probably it's especially useful for sort of working with shapes that you want to use in game asset or something like that. On the other hand, if you are just sort of creating a model and you want to be able to zoom in and get more detail when you zoom in, then you probably want relative detail, which is the default. I'm using relative detail here, which means that I can basically zoom into my model and then get more detail when I'm zoomed in. It's creating smaller subdivisions into the surface, and that allows me to kind of cut into my model with more accuracy. So here I am just trying to create a mouth. Now if I was a good artist, I would be looking at a reference image here. I'm not really doing it very seriously. So I'm just trying to create something that sort of looks okay. Let's give him a bit of a chin. And this is where I want to move to a larger brush again. Now, another thing which can be useful, if you are starting to feel happy with the rough shape of what you've got, you might want to start turning down the strength so that you don't accidentally make big changes. Right? So again, as you get closer to the result that you want, you might want to decrease the strength and use smaller brushes. So I normally start out with the high strength and big brushes, and then decrease the strength and use smaller brushes as I get closer to the result that I want. So now I'm going to out this eye area. Now, once I get reasonably close to the sort of area that I want, this isn't great, but never mind. It will do for now. Then it's time to add some eyes in. So what I'm going to do is switch to the layout view, which is just the normal view that we use in Blender. And then I'm going to add some balls, right? These are going to be the eyeballs. So if I go to add, mesh, and UV sphere, that's going to create an eyeball. Now I want it to be smaller than that. Again, I'm just going to do this without sort of using a reference or anything. If you're somebody who is a serious artist, you probably want to use a proper reference and do this more carefully, but I'm just going to put the eyeball in about there. I think that's probably okay. Now I'm going to press Shift and D to copy it across so that I've got another eyeball on the other side. That's probably okay. And then I'm going to click on the skull again so that I go back to selecting this main object, because that's the object that I'm sculpting, and I have to make sure that I select it before I go back into sculpting mode. And then once I'm back in sculpting mode, I can start to sculpt around these eyeballs. So once the eyeballs are in place, now it makes it much easier to start creating eyelids and eyelashes, eyebrows. So I'll just try to create something rich here, and then bring this out as the eyebrow. I might need a little bit more strength. If it's not changing enough for you, or it's not expanding quick enough, then just turn up the strength. That's a bit better. Maybe I'll give him some nostrils. Now I'm trying to tunnel through to create some nostrils here, and in order to create that level of detail, I'll need to turn the strength up quite high and the hardness up high, and I also want to zoom in so that I can get more polygons, right? So if you zoom in, that's going to increase the level of relative detail. Let's see, here we go. So now I'm sort of tunneling in. Now again, I don't think I've put these nostrils in quite the right place. Good, now. And then try to flesh it out around the edges. And maybe. Probably I'm making a little bit of a mess of this, but okay. And I think I'm going to try and sort out that head shape, because he's definitely got a very weird head shape at the moment. It looks like he's got some kind of nasty disease. That's maybe a bit better. That's looking a bit better. The other thing is basically just to keep playing around with it. Don't worry if it doesn't look exactly right, because there's lots of things that you can do to gradually build it up. I'm going to see if I can add some ears now. Let's put some ears around the side. So I'm going to create the ear as kind of like a lump. It looks a bit like Prince Charles. Let's decrease that ear a bit. Yes, still that's useful for hearing things. So right now I'll use a small brush and I'll just cut away around that ear to try to give it a bit more and zoom in maybe to get some more detail. Oh, you know what? I haven't turned on dynamic topology. That's why it's not behaving itself the way I was expecting. Okay, there we go. Maybe it's not a good ear, but I'll try and flatten it out a bit. Oh dear, that's not good, but never mind. You really can do some pretty awful stuff at first, and then with a bit of work and tidying up, it will actually look good. I know that might be hard to believe at the moment, but you just got to basically keep persevering with sculpting. It will pay off. So if you look at your sculpture and you don't think it looks great, don't give up. Keep working on it, and also, you know, be ready to start over, because it with practice you get better and better each time you look at an earlier sculpt. Oh, you know what? I forgot to turn on the mirroring, so it's just got a mess on that side. Never mind. Now, if you do forget to turn on the mirroring, there is a way to fix it. What you need to do is go to now, I think I might need to go back to layout and then go to edit mode and then mesh and symmetrize. And under symmetrize, I can choose -x to +x. I think that's correct. Let's try again. Mesh, symmetrize. There we go. That's it. So I needed to select everything first, and then I chose symmetrize, and that will actually make it symmetrical again. It's made his face a bit narrower, but I think that's okay. So now I can come back out of edit mode, go back into sculpting, and there's his ear. So I haven't lost the ear after all. Now I'm going to put dynamic topology back on, and I've got mirror on again to see if I can fix the back of his head. And then I'm almost done with this, to be honest, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, but maybe I'll try and give him some hair. That's nice hair, isn't it? So for the hair, once you get to the hair, you want to take symmetry off, right? Because symmetrical hairstyles just look weird, right? Hairstyles in reality are not symmetrical. So I'm going to take off the symmetry and maybe decrease the size of the brush a little bit, and then let's see if we can give him a nice hairstyle just to finish off. He's got big hair at the moment. I'm going to end up giving him an afro or something like that. Probably have created this hair so big because maybe my strength is up a little bit too high, so I'm going to change that setting on the right so that it's easier to make small changes. Now, I haven't turned on auto smooth because, again, I don't think that hair really needs to be smooth. You want to give the impression of some detail. in the hair. So here we go. Keeping a bit of hair around the ears. Forehead's become too small now. I need to expand that forehead a bit. Well, it's a funny old hairstyle, but anyway, I don't think I'm going to do any more on this. It's kind of fun to play around with it, but this video's already gone on for too long. So, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I hope that you have loads of fun experimenting with sculpting in Blender, because I think it is a really fun thing to do. You can create all sorts of funny shapes, monsters, ogres, animals, weird creatures. There really is no limit to the kind of crazy stuff you can make using the sculpting tool. Yeah, that's it from me, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with.